A lot of people will focus on the fact that 75% of African American children are born out of wedlock, but they conflate that with not being an involved father. The CDC and all kind of research tells us that African American fathers are actually the most involved, more than white fathers, more than Hispanic fathers. So even if they're not in the home.
Welcome to the IAAQLI 6 Pillars in Action podcast, where we deep dive into the transformative impact of the work being done in Indianapolis Black communities. Get ready to be inspired by the incredible projects and organizations making a real difference in the lives of Indianapolis residents. And that conversation starts right now.
Welcome to 6 Pillars in Action podcast, where we focus on the work of the IAAQLI, which is the Indianapolis African American Quality of Life Initiative here in Indianapolis. I'm your host, Samantha Douglas, and on this episode, we have Larry Smith with Fathers and Family. I'm going to let you introduce yourself and then tell us about the organization.
Okay, well, wonderful to be here. Really a pleasure. Larry Smith, President and CEO of Fathers and Families Center. We've been around for 32 years. In that period, we've helped about 24,000 men become better fathers. Our mission is to equip fathers and empower families so that children thrive.
24,000 men. That is incredible. Like, how did you, I often feel like I get up every day and do like little things, and then it becomes like this big thing. Is that how you feel about 24,000 men?
Well, I can't take full credit. I've been there for about 2.5 years, so I'm building on the legacy of my predecessor, Dr. Wallace McLaughlin. But yes, it's an incredible number, and really we've impacted at least 2 to 3 times that number, because those are just the men we've worked with.
Right.
We also help them become better fathers, in addition to better breadwinners and so on. And so it really has a ripple effect that ultimately benefits the entire community.
Wow. That is incredible. So tell us about practically what does this look like for the men in your program? What does it look like when they come to Fathers and Families?
So we're best known for our Strong Fathers program. It's 3 weeks long, 90 hours of instruction. We focus on what we call the 4 Ps. We want to help the men to become a better person, a better parent, a better partner, a better provider. So a better person, essentially it means, what does it mean to be a man in the 21st century? So the module is really around going from maleness to manhood. A better parent. The vast majority of the men we serve did not grow up in a home in which their father was present, at least full time. It doesn't necessarily mean they're a bad father,
right.
But we show them how to become a better parent. A better partner. Most of the men we serve are not married to their children's mother, or they might be divorced. And so we talk a lot about co-parenting, about why we pay child support and those kinds of things. And then finally, a better provider. The average income of the men who come to us is about $11,000 a year.
Jesus.
A year, right? So we want to ensure that when they leave, they have a job or a career with what we would call a family-sustaining wage.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So that is a lot. So much to do with like an individual, and you guys make sure, how do you make sure that you're walking these men through individually, like, in that they're at least, like, each one of them are getting what they need?
Great question. So it's a completely voluntary program. So when they come to us, they basically have said, I've tried my way doesn't work, let me try another way. The average age is 30 to 35, although we take fathers as young as 16, so 16 and up. But typically it's men who are 30 to 35 and who really want to make a change in their life. We work with a lot of men who are formerly incarcerated, and so we tell parole officers, judges, the prosecutor, do not force them to come. If you force them to come, we're going to send them back to you. This has to be completely voluntary. So it's volitional, and they have said, I want to make a change in my life.
That's great. And you guys have staff that walks them through that process, like on the journey of being
Absolutely.
a better parent and father. Okay,
Absolutely.
that's amazing. So I'm going to backtrack just a little bit. Talk about how you're connected to this work specifically.
Well, I was actually a father at 17 years
Wow.
old. My parents were divorced when I was very young, maybe 4 or 5. My father was not involved in my life. I don't disparage him. He was an Army veteran. He had a lot of demons he was battling. But at the end of the day, once I became a parent, I understood that I had to make some different decisions about my life. So I became a first-generation college student, and that really changed the whole trajectory of my life. And so now I'm a parent of 3. 38-year-old daughter. She'll be 38 next month. She'll celebrate 11 years of marriage. A 19-year-old daughter who's a sophomore at Howard University in D.C., and a 17-year-old son who's a senior at Lawrence North High School. He'll graduate 1 or 2 in his class. He's 5.1 GPA. He's class president, does show choir, and he's on his way to a great college experience.
Wow, that is incredible. My husband says all the time that he realized as he got older and became a father himself that his dad was just a dude who had kids.
Yeah,
like, we think of fathers as like they're supposed to be these, grand things, and it's like, no, really, I'm just a dude that had kids, and I'm trying to figure it out.
We're all trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And I would add the fact that a lot of people will focus on the fact that 75% of African American children are born out of wedlock, but they conflate that with not being an involved father. The CDC and all kind of research tells us that African American fathers are actually the most involved, more than white fathers, more than Hispanic fathers. So even if they're not in the home, black fathers are the most involved. But yeah, everyone, including me, still trying to figure it out.
That's incredible. So tell us about why specifically with your organization, why is it important that it exists and that it continues to get support?
Yeah, great question. So there are a lot of programs that exist for mothers. Our society seems to understand that moms need assistance, not so much with fathers, which is great because that gives us an opportunity to exist and to affect the lives of so many men. We know that when a father is involved in the life of a child, they are less likely to commit suicide. They have higher self-esteem. They get better grades. They are less likely to be involved in drugs. They are less likely to be involved in gangs. And so it's nothing to disparage mothers at all, but the role of the father is crucially important, just not always well understood.
Yeah, in that, when you applied for IAAQLI, I know, like many of us, we were like, what? The Black community is getting $100 million. So when you heard about this opportunity, talk about how you saw it as a specific opportunity for your organization.
Well, we are about 90% grant funded. I'm trying to change that. I want to ensure that we have a better balance of individual donations, corporate sponsorships, earned income, and investment allocation. But at the end of the day, at this point in time, we are grant dependent. And so when I saw the announcement from Lilly Endowment, I thought, well, it sounds like that fits very well with what we're trying to do. And so we applied and fortunately received a couple of grants.
So how has it enabled you, and how's it impacted your work positively?
Well, the first grant that we received went to workforce development. So some of the other things that we do, if you did not graduate from high school and you're interested in a GED, we will pay for your GED. And so last year we had 19 men who graduated with their GED. By the way, we work with Warren Township for that. Secondly, workforce development. We help men find, again, jobs or careers with a family-sustaining wage, which leads to the second grant, which helped fund our construction training center. We opened up a construction training center in conjunction with Eastern Star Church on East 30th Street, and the men graduate from that program with the ability to go out and get a job in construction. So again, you go from an average income of about $11,000 to a job that will pay you $30, $40, $50 an hour.
So I'm curious because this is something that I advocate in our community about all the time. Are you guys super intentional about the employment opportunities you connect fathers with? Because and I'll say this briefly, but my dad drove a truck when I was growing up, so he wasn't home most of the week. I saw him, he might as well been, my parents might as well have not been together. I only saw him on weekends, right? And I think how detrimental that can be to a home, not having that father present. He's financially present, but not having his presence. So are you guys intentional about the employment opportunities that you're connecting these men with? We
are, but ultimately it's their decision. But It's interesting you mentioned, so one of the training opportunities we offer is CDL, right? And so we encourage them to go to Indigo, which is one of our partners. If you go to Indigo to get CDL training, you'll go to work for them and you're home every night.
Right.
So that's very, very important.
Yeah. So I guess give us specific examples of success. Is there any stories you can think of?
Absolutely. So one man I'm thinking in particular, he was on one of the last planes out of Afghanistan when the U.S. withdrew. He made his way to Indiana. Still don't know how he got here, but made his way to Indiana. Started working for a large company that I will not name, but his supervisor did not like him because he is a Muslim. And so someone told him about Fathers and Families Center. He made his way to us. He went through CDL, got a job driving trucks. And his name is Muhammad. You would think that we handed him $1 million million, right?
Yeah.
But we gave him an opportunity because we don't care, whatever background you are, come to us. By the way, the men do not pay anything to go through our program. We pay them a stipend. And then for the certification program, we pay up to $250,000 a year to send these men through these training programs. So there's never any cost to the participant.
Wow. So, and I know you said this is completely voluntary. So, like, how do these men find you all? Like, how do they get connected?
A lot of it is word of mouth. We also advertise a great deal on WFYI, on on Radio 1, Wish TV, or Circle City Media, but also, frankly, a lot of women, right? Mothers, sisters, wives, girlfriends tell them, you need to take yourself down. Sometimes it's not usually self, but they'll take yourself down to fathers and families to help them in whatever area they need assistance in.
So I know we talked a lot about, like, especially employment things, stuff like that. So how are you helping them be better fathers? So, like, when you think about, like, the internal structure of the home and, like, being present for their kids, like, what does that look like?
Yeah, so let me give a specific example. Not all the men, but a substantial number of the men come to us with some antiquated notions of fatherhood. So, for example, I can't emote in front of my children, right? I can't cry, I can't be weak, and so on. So we talk through that. Again, what does it really mean to be a man? What does it really mean to be a father? And it's not always being hard and tough. Sometimes it means showing your kids your softer side. We also teach a lot about responsibility, right? What is your responsibility as a father? Not just financially, right? As I like to say, not just your presence, right? Presents, but your presence, Prescence, which means being there for them emotionally, mentally, spiritually.
So is that like weekly classes?
Daily. So it's 3 weeks. Our Strong Fathers class is 3 weeks, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. We also go to the penal institutions in Pendleton, Indiana. We work with men who are fewer than 90 days from being released from prison. We help them reintegrate back into society, back into the workforce, most importantly, back into their family.
Oh, wow. Oh, my God. First of all, I didn't even know all of these things. That is incredible. And so, wow. That's so much. So when they come for these classes and they go through this process, what does it look like once they're done with that training? Or is it just they're just out there?
Yeah, no. So after 3 weeks, there are 3 options, and they can overlap. One is to apply for a job with one of our employer partners. We have about 25 employer partners. Another is to go through the certification training. So that's all the skilled trades, forklift driving, CDL, apartment maintenance, on and on and on. We pay for all that. Third, if you're interested in becoming an entrepreneur, we tell you to go and come back and bring us a for real business plan. We will vet it. If we approve it, we pay your fees to the Secretary of State. We'll give you a new laptop, and then our VP of Programs and Partnerships, Corey Parchman, becomes their entrepreneur coach. Corey grew up on the east side of Indy like I did, went to Ball State, was a great athlete, played in the NFL for 5.5 years, understood that NFL really means not for long, and so he saved his money, became an entrepreneur, and so he becomes their entrepreneur coach.
Wow.
We also have case management. So once they graduate, we follow up with them. So if they need help with substance abuse or mental, emotional health, we send them to different partners. But again, we don't just wave goodbye. We follow up with them. We do case management for 30, 60, 90 days, hopefully up to even 9 months to ensure that they are successful in their job or whatever opportunity they've taken advantage of.
So without the IAAQLI funding, or I guess with it, what did it empower you to do that you wouldn't have been able to do?
Certainly it allowed us to strengthen our program. So with the first grant, really helped with our workforce development, which is just so crucial. And then with the second one, it allowed us to build our construction training center at Eastern Star Church on 30th Street.
That's amazing. And you said you guys got money 2 rounds.
2 rounds.
Right, 2 rounds. That's amazing. And both went to the same kind of project?
Well, they were related. The first one was a bit more broadly based. The second one was a bit more narrow and focused on the construction training center.
Okay, nice. So tell us again before we go, how can men get connected, or how can their women connect them
So
to you all?
we are located at 2835 North Illinois. For now, we should be moving shortly to a larger facility. We've outgrown our facility, literally and figuratively.
That's amazing.
But come to us at 2835 North Illinois, or go to the website, ffcindiana.org, ffcindiana.org, and sign up that way, or call. We'll take you any way you come.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here with us today. It
My
was
pleasure.
a pleasure to have you and to learn so much about the organization.
Thank you so much.
Make sure you come back so that we can learn more about how the IAAQLI funding is impacting your community.
Coming up, we'll hear from another IAAQLI awardee and dive into how P30's Launch B&B program is making a difference in our community. And don't forget, subscribe to our podcast and visit the IAAQLI website to learn more about the work being done and ways to get involved.
Welcome back to Six Pillars in Action podcast. I'm your host, Samantha Douglas, and now we are here with Tracy Palmer from P30, who heads up their Launch B&B program, and also Montavia Riley, who's here as a participant of that program. So first off, Tracy, introduce yourself to us and tell us how you got started in this entrepreneurial space.
Awesome. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. Again, I am Tracy Palmer. I am a business coach, consultant. I've been doing that for quite some time. And the way that I actually got into the space, to the P30 space, is that I've been knowing Tamise Cross, the executive director, for a while. And I just happened to look on social media to see, what's going on at P30th and Post? What's happening over there? And so I knew that with what I had already been doing in the community, what I had already been doing with entrepreneurs in that space, not in P30, but just in my area, I was like, I would love to be in that space to help. Then, upon arriving, I found out about a program that they were developing called Launch Business in a Box, and that's actually how I even got connected.
We call it Launch B&B so much, I forgot it was Launch Business.
I got real formal just now, but okay, I can bring it back.
So that one, obviously, with everything you had been doing leading up to that point, it made all the sense in the world for you to be in this space. Mm-hmm. Did you have the opportunity to actually help shape this program too? Did you come in and it was already made, or you came in and it was being built?
Exactly.
Okay.
When I came in, it was a concept. It was being built. It had the name.
Yeah.
It had an ideal of pieces that they wanted. But then as I came in, first of all, I was supposed to be as an advisor, mm-hmm. and then quickly realized that it needed someone to actually lead it, to head it up, to actually oversee. And so they kind of kindly looked at me to say, hey, would you like to go ahead and oversee this whole program? Yeah. And I was like, okay, sure. So what I brought to the table was just my expertise on what I knew was needed for entrepreneurs. As a consultant, I knew the pieces that were missing. I knew the holes that was missing. Yeah. And so I didn't want to veer too much away from what they had already laid as their foundation. So I just kind of added to it and then just took it to the next level.
Yeah. So I'm going to, because I got a little ahead of myself, started talking about Launch Business in a Box. So, and I got formal too. Hey, come on. So let's take a step back. For those of you, I think we just always, as Far East Siders, we assume everybody knows what P30 is. So just talk a little bit about what is P30 and what do they want to do?
What is P30? P30 is, how can I name it without being too formal? I think it's just a place where entrepreneurs can come and grow, develop, get strengthened, be encouraged, know that they can make it and have an opportunity to get to the next level in their business. The whole mission, of course, is to disrupt inequality, ignite hope, and to launch prosperity within the Far East Side community. So I believe that that space embodies all of that, but we become a family. You know what I'm saying? We literally just become a family. That's why I'm like, I don't know if I can give that formal answer. I just go in with the heart answer, because meeting even yourself and others is like, we become like family. We help one another. We help to lift one another. Wherever I'm weak in a certain area, somebody is strengthened, and wherever I'm strong in the area, I can help strengthen.
Yeah.
So that's how I see P30.
I love that you described it that way and you didn't just say it's a co-work space. Because I feel like that's like I don't know, that's not the weakest point, but that's like it's a co-work space, but it feels like so much more, right? Especially to the people who are a part of it, like all of us. So before, I'm not going to get too deep into your experience to launch Business in a Box first. First, I want to talk about, because you have a unique experience of being involved with the start of P30 itself. So how did you get connected, and how did it like inspire these things in you?
Absolutely. Just like Miss Tracy said, like, Tabis is known, right? Like she does not know a stranger at all. And so I've actually known Tamis since I was in middle school. And as we've grown as family, we go to the same church community, like all of these different things. She knew that I had a business background once I graduated college. And she was like, hey, I'm building a co-working space. Hey, you have a business minor. Hey, do you want to help me build this business?
Yeah.
And it really started with just like her enthusiasm, her vision, like, hey, we would love to provide coffee at the front. Would you help me build that? And that's really how it started.
So, and this was before even Launch B&B was actually started.
Before P30 even had walls.
Right, okay. Wow, okay.
Yeah.
You guys were talking about starting this business up front. Love that.
Absolutely.
So now let's talk about Launch Business in a Box. Its specific vision, and how do people like Montavia, like how do they get connected and how do they get started?
Okay, so the specific vision is to be able to make sure that there was a program that helped entrepreneurs to, again, get those pieces that were missing. So like business viability, marketing, learning about startups, because a lot of times, not startups, I'm sorry, building your entity, legal entities.
Yes.
I'm trying to think of all the different classes that we had. Understanding your sales funnel, HR. Sometimes we forget that those things are important.
Yeah.
So it's about the education piece for me, because I love educating. So therefore, I wanted to make sure that any subject matter expert that came into the space, that they were, first of all, going to deliver at a certain level. So that was one of my roles, to make sure I would vet out those people, because that was very important. Money, yes, is great, to get the funding to, and I know you're going to get into that. I know, I feel like I jumped the gun.
Yeah, no, you're good.
But,
You're good.
Funding is always something that is talked about, but that base, that foundation of what are you getting into? What do you know your business? Do you understand the components that are necessary either for now or for the future? And so for me, that was one of the things that I saw within LB&B, Launch Business in a Box, as a foundational piece. Also mentorship. A lot of times we see programs out there, they don't offer mentorship. So trying to provide mentorship for each one of them. And then they have the benefit of having a coach alongside. If you had those specific business questions that maybe a mentor didn't know, you can come and speak to me as well. So I fell in love with that piece of it as well. And then providing technology. That was a barrier, especially in the community.
Yes.
People like, oh, I got to go to the library, I got to do this, I got to do that, or I don't own my own laptop. So taking that barrier out, so you can't have any excuse why you can't complete assignments, where you can't do any, get on the internet.
Yeah.
So, yeah, all of those things I believe were the foundational things, without sounding so formal, but that was just basically, this is what the foundation of Launch Business in a Box was all about, making sure the entrepreneur had all of these tools to be able to have sustainable growth, or at least begin their business and then profit and then have sustainable growth.
Yeah, because there's so much real work on the backside of being an entrepreneur. I feel like, so many times people will look at us because we have a flexible schedule or something, and they're just like, oh, wish I had that. And it's like, oh, like, do you know how much more disciplined I gotta be? Yeah. I'm working 24/7 all the time. Holidays don't exist.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, what? This does not, off time doesn't exist. So tell us about, I'm going to ask first about how you guys support Black entrepreneurs specifically, and then we'll go into how that then had alignment with the IAAQLI funding.
Well, to be honest, that is what led us into that specific way is because of this grant opportunity. Launch Business in a Box, or LBNB, has always been like just a support for anyone that was going to be in that co-working space.
Yeah.
But the grant helped us to focus even more specifically on just the African American community for the number of people that we were able to service over the 2 cohorts. So how do we do that? Again, through the support of the education, through the support of the taking away barriers that a lot of the entrepreneurs in that space, in that area, would say, hey, this is a barrier, this is a barrier. So with each piece of it, we try to address what they said were their barriers.
Yeah.
Now, it wasn't perfect, but, again, with something that you're just beginning as a start, we try to do as much as possible to say, okay, we want to take away those excuses for you not starting your business, not profiting in your business, and not having more sustained growth in your business. You can be able to hire, you can't say you don't have an opportunity. We're going to teach you about that, as well as funding if you need. So just throwing that out there as one of the things to do that we were.
And so it seems like Montavia then is like your perfect like client for Launch B&B, right? Saying like, listen, I had this idea for a coffee shop, but how we get there, all the technical things we do, I was saying on the last podcast, all the operational things are less sexy, but are equally as important, right? And so for you, first of all, tell us about your business. And then tell us about how your experience with Launch B&B has really accelerated and helped you through that process.
Absolutely. So, as I said before, and as some of you already know, 2 Cups a Day Cafe is the business. And being inside of P30, the main mission was to provide fresh coffee for the community on the Far East Side within a 2-mile radius, knowing that Starbucks is a little further of a distance, and then there's also not a lot of other options around just to be able to be fueled throughout the day and to start your day off right type thing. And so the coffee shop being in the space was very strategic, not only with being able to provide the networking opportunities and being able to receive the support that you need to grow your business, but also knowing that, hey, I also have the resources of getting a good cup of coffee, and not even just coffee, because we know that everybody isn't coffee drinkers. So we got our teas, we got our smoothies, and things of that nature to capture a wider variety of people and their own taste buds and things of that nature. So, and then when it came to Launch B&B, by the time I started Launch B&B, we were already like a year and a half in. And when I started Launch B&B, like I knew that I was going to receive so much out of it. And seeing how our first year compared to post Launch B&B, like how different it was as far as like the foundation of building the business, as far as like, oh wow, support and connecting and being connected with like mentors and also other business owners, how important those things were. I think those are some of like the larger and like key points that I really took away from Launch B&B. Like, you can't do this by yourself. And as we all able to nod in sentiment, like business owning is like 24-hour job. And as a new entrepreneur, I didn't fully understand that. And also like those who are more seasoned, like Miss Tracy here, like she got all the wisdom for us when it comes to owning a business and like knowing like, okay, you don't have to figure it out on your own. And that's the complete opposite of what P30 is there for, literally to be able to uplift one another. I remember one of the things that we talked about was just like, when it comes to owning a business, sometimes we operate it as an independent thing, and it doesn't have to be. How can we work together to build each other up? Like, oh shoot, I have this event coming up, I need a flyer created. Boom, I know Erin, and that's her business, so why not support her versus trying to find someone else to do those things? And so how can we continue to uplift each other and help to grow each other's business by supporting each other and outsourcing to one another? And so I think Launch B&B did a great job of like allowing us to connect with one another in that way, alongside gaining those fundamental like knowledge about building your business in the right way.
That's incredible. You answered so many of my questions at once too. You were so effective and efficient. Look at you.
Just one point I wanted to add, if you didn't mind.
Yeah.
That what I did really love, and you may or may not cover this, but I want to make sure it's said. I love being able to celebrate their success. So we came up with this graduation type event that was more geared towards business shower like a baby shower, and that is something, I've heard it on the internet, something about, let's have a business shower.
Yep.
And I'm like, I didn't see one in motion. I didn't know what that looked like, so I took my own brain and said, well, this is what it's gonna look like, and then working with her mom, Fran, which she was also a part of the first cohort, she helped to bring that vision to life where we were able to celebrate them in a different way. It also positioned them to be able to showcase their businesses, to be able to talk about this is what I do, and people to come alongside and then celebrate them. So that's another part that I'm just really was geeked about doing as well.
So how can people get connected to Launch Business in a Box or P30 or anything else you all have going on?
Well, definitely get on the website, P30 Indy, I believe. I'll mess up a website, P30Indy.com. And any and everything you need is there as far as who to connect with. Right now, Launch B&B is not so much a cohort program moving forward, but we are definitely still doing the support when it comes to supporting businesses at the next level. We have multiple cohorts within the space, and that's what's going to make it even better, because now if someone's only in startup phase, boom, they'll have somewhere to go. If someone's at a more extensive phase, they can go somewhere else. If someone's needing financial more support, they can go somewhere else, i.e. me. So, so there's different levels of support. But just real quick.
Just sliding on in there.
But no, it's making it where more support, instead of concentrating on just 10 to 15 to 20 people, now more people can kind of flow through the system to get what they need.
And not everybody's in the same place or has the same starting point. No. So it makes sense. Yeah. So thank you so much for being here today, telling us about especially how the IAAQLI funding is really empowering this work, and even more so in the future as you guys branch out and are able to impact more people. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate you guys coming, telling us about P30, telling us about Launch Business in a Box, and how people can get connected at P30Indy.com.
Yes.
P30Indy.com. So I am your host, Samantha Douglas. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of 6 Pillars in Action podcast. Make sure that you follow us on social media, watch us on YouTube, or any of your favorite podcast platforms. 6 Pillars in Action podcast. Thanks.
We hope you enjoyed today's 6 Pillars in Action podcast and learned more about how the IAAQLI funding is impacting our city. And remember, to stay up to date on what's happening with IAAQLI and the 6 Pillars in Action, subscribe to the podcast in Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Play. You can also check out the 6 Pillars in Action newsletter, blogs, and other videos on our website at IAAQLI.org. Until next time, let's continue to celebrate the power of transformation. See you next time.